Hey, what is up, guys? It is your boy, Kingdom Soldier, and I'm back again with another commentary. This is something that you guys have requested for a while. I asked if you guys wanted me to do it way back in the day, and I'm actually going to do it now. I put some gameplay on the screen, so it kind of keeps me on time so that I don't, do like a 40-minute video. I'm going to break this up into little pieces, and I didn't like write anything down. I don't have a like scheduled way of how I'm going to do this or what I'm going to say and when I'm going to say it. So you guys are just going to have to keep up with me. And if the audio is kind of off, it's just because the game audio and me talking is off slightly, and I didn't record it in separate tracks. So anyway, so Kingdom Soldier's real name is Anthony. For those of you that don't know, it's my name on Twitter. People actually call me Anthony all the time, and a lot of my life revolves around my relationship with my dad. So you guys are going to hear a lot about him throughout my entire life, even to this very day. A lot of my life revolves around my relationship with my dad, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I was born in 1980. Yes, that makes me 34 years old, September 8th, 1980. And I have a brother who was born on September 26th of 1981. He's my best friend, my roll dog. We rolled together as every year when we were kids. And I was born in Georgia, moved quickly to New York, and then moved to California. My dad and my mom were both in the Navy, and so we moved a lot, except when we got to California, I stayed in California from 5 years old all the way until 15 and a half, when I was basically forced to leave. The reason I left California is because I had been arrested 3 times in a 2-week period, and the judge gave me and my mom the option of keeping me on probation, possibly parole when I turned 18, or I could leave the state and my record would be sealed. So I'll get to all the stories of what happened in my teenage years to get me to that place, but I kind of want to backtrack and start at the beginning of my time in California and take you guys to the end of my time in California and then what is going on with my life now. So this episode will probably mostly, hopefully, recap most of what happened while I was in California. So when we were young, like my mom and my dad lived together. Our house was dope. My dad was really strict. He actually hung a belt on every door in the house just to let me and my brother know, like, don't trip, don't slip. And we got these little cards that we used to get from school: a green, a red, or a green, a red, or a yellow. And I would get a lot of yellow cards, and my dad always threatened, if you get a red card, you're getting a whooping and all this kind of stuff. And I remember this one time, he came home, I came home, and we used to I used to take construction paper, and me and my friends would make the cards. So I would get a green every day. Eventually, my dad figured it out because he asked my teacher what I was getting, and she was like, "Oh, he gets a lot of yellows. So, I figured you would be asking about this." And my dad was like, "He brings home green all the time." So I got in trouble for that. But my dad said, "Okay, look, I know the difference now. Your teacher's gonna sign every card you bring to me. You bring home a red card, and that's it. You're getting a spanking." And I'm like, "Okay, okay." And I was like 7 years old, something like that, in first grade or second grade. And I remember I got a red card, and I wasn't a bad kid. I just talked a lot in class. And so I brought home the red card, and I literally opened the front door and said, "Dad, I got a red card. Get the belt." And he was like, "No, you go ahead and play outside." I was like, "I got a red card." He was like, "Go play." I was like, "Cool. Awesome." So I threw down my backpack, threw down my red card. I went outside and played. 5 minutes later, my dad comes outside. He says, "Anthony, come here." I run over to him. He says, "Let me see your hands." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Let me see your hands." So I'm like, "Okay." I put my hands up. My dad proceeds to smack my hands as hard as humanly possible and tells me to keep putting my hands up. Now, I know these days, like, CPS would be called and he'd go to jail for that. But this was like 30 years ago, like 28 years ago. It was common. People would, like, other people would spank me back then. Like random neighbors and people at church would spank me for my parents. And so this is a different day and age. A lot has changed in 20-something years about how spankings are given out and stuff like that. So but I liked living with my dad. He bought me my first pet. I got hamsters. He played basketball really good, and I love that about him. And he liked Transformers, and I'm not talking about the Transformers you guys have. I'm talking about like when Bumblebee was Bumblebee, not Bumblebee the Corvette. You know, go look at old school Bumblebee. I mean, I had a Transformer toy that was like smaller than my fist. It was little, and it didn't have as many crazy parts as the Transformers do these days, but I loved it. It was my favorite. And my brother had like Optimus Prime, and so my dad was really cool. I mean, really cool guy. You know, a very good discipline. I liked that he had rules and stuck to them, and all that kind of stuff. And so there was a day where I think I was 6 years old. My brother was 5, and we rolled up to the house. And my mom and my dad had been at odds, and my mom actually took us, and we were staying at her friend's house for a while. And I think my dad was cheating on her. You know, he had some other girl. We actually met her, this girlfriend of my dad's, and I remember not knowing. We were too young to really know what was going on. You know, we were just happy to be spending time with my dad. And there was a day when my mom pulled up, and we were getting ready to get out of the car. She was like, you know, don't get out yet. And she rolled down the window, and she said, "Well, what are you doing?" And my dad was like, "Nothing. I'm you know, chilling at home. I don't have to work today." She was like, "Good. I have an interview. I need you to watch The Boys." And that meant me and my brother Alex. And my dad, you know, he's standing there with his wife beater and a do-rag and a Kool-Aid jug in his hand. And he says to my mom, "I'm not babysitting." My mom, I could just see on her face was turning red. She was so mad. And she looked at him and she said, "If you don't take these kids, we're not coming back." My dad said, "Fine." My mom rolled off. We didn't see my dad for months. We didn't see him actually until we had to see him in court when we were interviewed by the judge and all that kind of stuff, because they were arguing over custody. They were getting a divorce, and the decree was that my dad was going to get to have us every other weekend, and my mom had primary custody of us. So we went to stay with my mom's friend. Really sucked. While we were staying there, we actually got robbed. When I was 21 years old, I found out that we actually didn't get robbed. We got repoed. My mom had rented furniture, computer, TV, a whole bunch of stuff, and wasn't paying the bill because she was poor. She was broke. She was a stay-at-home mom when we lived on base housing. And when we left the base, my mom had to get a job, and she got a job as like an admin and had 2 boys to take care of. And so she rented all this furniture, and we lived in her friend's house, and all the furniture got taken, and it was really sad. We lived in an apartment. We got evicted out of that. You know, it was like, I mean, we were really living in rags at that time. You know, we didn't have anything. Peanut butter and jelly was our breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we didn't see my dad at all. And then finally, we had to start seeing him every other weekend, and that only lasted 3 months because about the 6th time we had seen my dad, I had to call the police because he had given his new girlfriend, who is now currently still his wife, at the time his girlfriend or fiance, he had given her a black eye, and she was holding a knife to him. And me and my brother were sitting on the couch. We had woken up from sleeping on the couch. My brother was screaming his head off, "Leave my dad alone, leave my dad alone." And I was just standing there like, what am I supposed to do? My dad said, "Call the police, tell them my wife needs to be sedated because she's crazy." So I called the police and I said, "My dad says that his wife needs to be sedated because she's crazy." I don't think they were married at the time, but he was calling her his wife. And so the police came, they took us. My mom looked at my dad as he was handcuffed at the top of the steps as she grabbed us, and she said, "Ernie, you will never see these kids again." And my dad, you know, probably was upset at that time. And this gameplay is over, so I'm going to kind of stop it here. There's a lot more that happened in California. But at this point in life was where I actually stopped seeing my dad for a good 8 to 10 years. So I'll tell you guys the rest of the story, what happened in California, in the next video, and how I went from, you know, this fatherless Anthony to a gang member that was experimenting with drugs and everything else. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.